Imagine this scene. You're at work, watching how a manipulative and selfish coworker gets promoted while you, who always treat everyone with respect and honesty, remain stuck. You see people around you lying, cheating, and stepping on others to get what they want, seemingly without consequences, while you struggle financially because you refuse to compromise your values. You try to explain to friends how unfair it feels to be an honest person in a world that seems to reward dishonesty. But they reply with empty cliches, like life isn't fair, or you need to be smarter. They don't understand that you simply can't play the game because your internal moral compass is too strong to allow behaviors that violate your integrity. This makes you question whether something is wrong with you, whether you should be more cynical and manipulative to succeed. You wonder why it seems the kinder you are, the more the world seems to punish you for it. But here's what most people don't realize. Arthur Schopenhauer and Friedrich Nietzsche discovered more than a century ago that your moral struggle isn't evidence of weakness. In fact, it's proof of your spiritual superiority and strength of character. Schopenhauer spent years observing human nature and realized that genuinely compassionate individuals possess a moral evolution that puts them in natural conflict with a society still dominated by primitive instincts. Nietzsche expanded on this vision, showing that morally superior people face resistance precisely because they represent a level of human development that threatens systems built on power and manipulation. What you're about to discover will revolutionize how you see your kindness, revealing why it is actually your greatest strength in a world that still doesn't understand its value. Arthur Schopenhauer revolutionized our understanding of morality when he explained that genuinely compassionate people operate through an expanded perception of reality that most people haven't developed yet. He observed that morally evolved individuals can feel the fundamental interconnectedness of all beings, making it literally impossible for them to inflict suffering on others. Schopenhauer realized through decades of philosophical reflection that genuine compassion isn't just an emotion, but a higher form of intuitive knowledge. People with this capacity can see beyond the illusion of separation, the same illusion that enables selfish and cruel behaviors, and begin to operate from a deeper understanding of reality. The German philosopher also observed that morally superior individuals face additional suffering precisely because of their heightened sensitivity. They not only feel their own pain, but also absorb the suffering of others, creating a more intense and challenging life experience that morally less developed people simply don't encounter. Friedrich Nietzsche complemented Schopenhauer's reflections by identifying that people with high values represent a natural evolution of humanity. He perceived that morally advanced individuals are precursors of a superior type of human being, facing resistance from social structures still based on primitive instincts of domination and destructive competition. Nietzsche noted that genuinely virtuous people possess an inner strength so powerful they can maintain their values even when it costs them materially. This ability to choose principle over convenience represents a level of character development few achieve, making these people true spiritual aristocrats. Both philosophers recognize that morally evolved individuals face what Nietzsche called the loneliness of high values. They live on a moral frequency different from the masses, creating a natural experience of isolation that may be misinterpreted as social inadequacy, when in reality, it indicates spiritual superiority. Schopenhauer also highlighted that compassionate people have a natural ability to see through social masks and manipulations, instinctively detecting dishonesty or exploitation in others. This heightened perception protects them from being fully deceived, but also makes them more aware of the prevalence of questionable behavior around them. Nietzsche identified that individuals with genuine values create a specific kind of discomfort in people living by moral compromises. The mere presence of an integral person exposes others' moral mediocrity, generating defensive reactions that may manifest as hostility or attempts to diminish the virtuous person. The two philosophers understood that the additional suffering faced by good people is not punishment, but the natural price of operating on a higher moral level. They recognized that this extra difficulty is paradoxically evidence of these people's spiritual superiority, not any deficiency or inadequacy. Schopenhauer and Nietzsche agreed that morally evolved individuals are essential for humanity's progress, serving as beacons of possibility that inspire others to raise their own standards. Their daily struggle to maintain integrity in a morally confused world represents a heroic service to the collective evolution of human consciousness. You're in good company alongside the greatest philosophical minds in history, who understood that genuine kindness is actually a form of moral genius that naturally counters resistance in environments still dominated by primitive instincts. Modern neuroscience research suggests that Schopenhauer and Nietzsche's brilliant intuitions were right in many ways. Growing evidence indicates that genuinely compassionate people have more developed brain architectures in areas related to empathy, moral decision-making, and complex emotional processing. Brain imaging studies show that individuals more sensitive to ethical principles may display greater activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for sophisticated judgment. Researchers have also observed that people with a strong moral compass tend to have more robust neural connections between the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system, allowing a more balanced integration between reason and emotion in decision-making. Other studies suggest that compassionate individuals show greater activation of so-called mirror neurons, cells linked to empathy and understanding others' experiences. This heightened activation may explain why compassionate people literally feel others' emotions more intensely, making cruel behavior deeply disturbing to them. Research on compassion and altruism practices also shows positive effects on neuroplasticity. People who consistently cultivate high moral behavior develop brain patterns similar to advanced meditators and spiritual leaders. This indicates that the daily choice to act with integrity is literally sculpting a more resilient and connected brain. Neurochemistry studies point out that compassionate behaviors stimulate the release of oxytocin, a hormone related to trust and social bonding. This neurochemical profile favors authentic relationships and genuine cooperation, contrasting with dynamics focused solely on immediate rewards. There is also evidence that people guided by high values show greater activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, a brain region associated with resolving moral conflicts. This heightened activation helps explain why such people feel physical discomfort when witnessing unethical behavior that others can easily ignore. Longitudinal studies suggest that individuals who maintain high moral standards develop greater stress resilience and better emotional regulation. This consistent integrity strengthens neural systems related to psychological resilience, creating superior mental stability that benefits all aspects of life. Neuroscientists have also observed that highly compassionate people show greater connectivity in the brain's default mode network, associated with deep reflection and self-awareness. This indicates a natural capacity for philosophical contemplation and existential understanding, far beyond the superficial thinking prevalent in society. In studies on perspective taking, compassionate individuals tend to understand complex situations from multiple angles simultaneously. This superior cognitive ability explains why you often see solutions to conflicts that escape people more focused only on their own interests. And research on moral development shows that people who consistently choose values over convenience end up training their brains to prioritize long-term rewards over immediate gratification. This brain configuration favors wiser, more sustainable decisions that benefit both the individual and the community. In short, science suggests that more cooperative and compassionate brains may represent an evolutionary advantage for our species. This means your high morality isn't a sign of inadequacy, but rather an alignment with humanity's evolutionary direction. Mahatma Gandhi perfectly exemplifies how moral superiority can transform entire societies, demonstrating that true strength comes from the ability to maintain high principles even in the face of extreme adversity. His refusal to use violence or dishonesty, even when confronting a brutal empire, ended up being more powerful than any army or manipulative strategy. Nelson Mandela transformed decades of prison and personal suffering into an extraordinary demonstration of how high values can overcome systems built on hatred and division. His ability to forgive his oppressors and work for reconciliation instead of seeking revenge created social transformation that violent methods could never have achieved. Martin Luther King Jr. faced constant threats, imprisonment, and even assassination for holding on to his vision of justice based on love and nonviolence. His refusal to compromise his moral principles, even when it cost his personal safety, created lasting social changes that more practical methods never could have. Mother Teresa dedicated her entire life to society's most destitute, demonstrating how genuine compassion can have a global impact, even without significant material resources. Her moral strength attracted worldwide support and inspired millions to recognize the inherent dignity of all human beings. Viktor Frankl transformed his experience in Nazi concentration camps into profound insights about how high values can sustain the human spirit even in the most horrific circumstances. His discovery that meaning and moral purpose are more powerful than material comfort revolutionized our understanding of human psychology. Rosa Parks showed how a simple act of moral integrity can spark massive social movements, proving that seemingly ordinary people with extraordinary values can change the course of history. Her refusal to accept injustice, even when it meant facing severe personal consequences, inspired an entire generation. Albert Schweitzer left a promising career in music and theology to serve underprivileged communities in Africa, exemplifying how genuine compassion can motivate sacrifices that seem irrational to mindsets focused only on personal gain. His selfless dedication created a legacy of inspiration that lives on to this day. Malala Yousafzai turned an assassination attempt into a global platform for education and human rights, demonstrating how high moral values can turn even violent attacks into positive forces for change. Her courage in holding to her principles even under deadly threats inspired millions worldwide. Desmond Tutu used his moral authority to facilitate South Africa's peaceful post-apartheid transition, showing how leadership based on high principles can heal deep social wounds. His ability to promote forgiveness and reconciliation instead of revenge opened paths that more realistic approaches never could. Thich Nhat Hanh demonstrated how compassion can flourish even in the midst of war and destruction, transforming personal and collective suffering into teachings that helped millions find inner peace. His ability to maintain kindness and wisdom during violent conflict proves that high values are actually the most practical way to endure extreme difficulties. Each of these individuals faced significant resistance for maintaining high moral standards, but their contributions to humanity far exceeded any success obtained through manipulative or selfish methods. Your moral integrity creates a specific kind of discomfort in people who've built their lives on ethical compromises and convenient justifications. It's not that they're necessarily bad, it's that your consistently ethical presence highlights higher life possibilities they're not yet ready to embrace or even recognize. When you act with genuine honesty in situations where others expect manipulation or strategic lies, you inadvertently expose the moral mediocrity many have accepted as normal. Your refusal to play the game of convenient dishonesty forces others to confront their own ethical choices, creating an uncomfortable mirror they'd rather avoid. Your ability to maintain high values even when it costs you materially or socially demonstrates a strength of character that can intimidate people who routinely sacrifice principles for convenience. This moral consistency shows that higher choices are possible, indirectly questioning the justifications others use for their questionable behaviors. The genuine compassion you show can be unsettling to people used to relationships based on transaction and manipulation. Your ability to offer kindness without expecting direct return challenges, relational models based on give to get, exposing the emotional poverty of purely strategic approaches to human connection. Your moral sensitivity allows you to perceive ethical inconsistencies that others can easily ignore or rationalize. When you react to questionable behavior most consider normal, you may be labeled too sensitive or idealistic when in fact you're operating from more refined moral standards. The inner peace that emerges from an integral life can be unconsciously threatening to people living in constant inner conflict due to moral compromises. Your emotional stability, based on consistent values, contrasts with the chronic anxiety that often accompanies dishonest and manipulative lifestyles. Your refusal to participate in gossip, manipulation, or questionable schemes can be interpreted as judgment, even when you're simply maintaining your own standards. People engaged in ethically dubious behavior may feel implicitly criticized by your presence, even when you don't express disapproval directly. The authenticity you maintain can highlight the number of masks and performances others use to navigate social and professional situations. Your natural honesty can make people dependent on fabricated personas feel exposed or inadequate. Not because you do anything to cause this, but because the contrast is inevitable. Your ability to find satisfaction in meaningful contributions rather than just material acquisitions can challenge dominant cultural values of consumerism and status. When you demonstrate contentment based on purpose and connection rather than possessions, it can unsettle people who measure success solely by material accumulation. The continuous growth you pursue through honest self-examination and character improvement can be uncomfortable for people who've settled into stagnant patterns. Your willingness to acknowledge flaws and work to correct them contrasts with tendencies of self-justification and denial that many use to avoid the hard work of real personal development. Your presence ultimately serves as a constant reminder that higher choices are possible, and that perception can generate both inspiration and resistance, depending on a person's willingness to honestly examine their own moral life. The first step in turning your moral superiority into transformative power is recognizing that your kindness isn't naivety, but rather an advanced form of social and spiritual intelligence. Start each day consciously reaffirming that your high values are smart, strategic choices to create the kind of world you want to live in, not weaknesses to be overcome. Build unshakable confidence in your moral standards by creating a system of daily reminders about the positive impact of your ethical choices. Keep a journal where you record moments when your integrity produced better results than manipulative methods could have achieved. Building concrete evidence of the practical power of genuine kindness. Intentionally cultivate relationships with people who share high values. Seeking communities where your integrity is recognized as strength rather than naivety. Your moral energy is contagious when directed at receptive people. So prioritize connections that nurture and amplify your capacity for positive impact. Learn to communicate your values in ways that inspire rather than threaten. Develop skills to share your moral perspective in ways that invite reflection rather than defensiveness. Use personal stories and concrete examples to demonstrate how high principles create superior results in practical life. Turn your moral sensitivity into visionary leadership by channeling your ability to perceive injustices and inconsistencies into creative solutions that benefit everyone involved. Your ability to see beyond immediate personal interests allows you to identify collaborative strategies others often can't. Practice setting compassionate but firm boundaries, learning to maintain your values without being condescending or defensive with people who operate by different standards. Develop the art of being kind, yet inflexible on matters of principle, demonstrating that kindness and strength of character are complementary, not contradictory. Use your natural compassion as a tool for social transformation, finding ways to serve causes larger than yourself, whether through volunteer work, mentoring, or advocacy. Your ability to deeply feel others' suffering can be channeled into concrete actions that create lasting positive change. Develop strategic patience with the process of social change, recognizing that your moral influence operates on longer timescales than methods based on force or manipulation. Cultivate the perspective that you're planting seeds of transformation that may bloom years or even decades later. Create personal rituals that honor and strengthen your values, establishing regular practices of ethical reflection and renewal of commitment to your principles. Your integrity needs conscious nurturing to remain strong in the face of cultural pressures trying to compromise moral standards. Turn ethical challenges into growth opportunities by using each situation where your values are tested as a chance to develop greater wisdom and moral strength. See obstacles as training for spiritual leadership, preparing you to positively influence increasingly complex situations and people. Practice daily gratitude for your ability to feel compassion and maintain integrity, recognizing that these qualities are rare gifts, qualifying you for unique and valuable contributions to the world. Your moral sensitivity isn't a burden but a superpower that needs to be celebrated and consciously directed. Schopenhauer and Nietzsche understood more than a century ago that genuinely good people face more resistance precisely because they represent a level of moral evolution that threatens systems built on selfishness and manipulation. Their discovery that compassion is the basis of all morality validates what you've always felt, that your kindness is your greatest strength, not your greatest weakness. Have you noticed that the more integral you are, the more the world seems to resist your values? As if your honesty and compassion create discomfort in people accustomed to games and manipulation? If you're finding value in this discussion, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. We're building a community of people committed to living by strong moral principles. Like this video, if you recognize that your struggle to maintain integrity in a morally confused world actually proves your spiritual superiority. Share it with someone who needs to know that genuine kindness is strength, not weakness. Leave a comment and tell me, how has your refusal to compromise your values ended up creating better results than manipulative methods could have achieved? I read every comment, and your experiences inspire other moral leaders to maintain their high standards. You're not naive for believing in kindness, not weak for choosing integrity over convenience. You're not inadequate for holding moral standards others consider too high. You're exactly the kind of moral leader this world desperately needs. Your compassion isn't vulnerability, but the most advanced form of human strength, capable of transforming hearts, minds, and entire societies through the silent power of authentic kindness.